In my personal journey to achieving 1 billion credits in Warframe, I decided to test the best beginner credit farm, and in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to maximize your credit earnings in the early game of Warframe. So let's get right into it. First things first, what is the best mission to do when it comes to getting credits in the early game of Warframe? Well, there isn't one specific mission that you can do to get a bunch of credits. There's actually a collection of different missions that all fall into the same category or classification, and they're known as dark sector missions. Now you might be wondering, what's so special about dark sector missions and what exactly are they? Well, firstly, dark sector missions can be found on pretty much any planet or node or whatever you want to call it, except for the Zariman, the Void, the Kuva Fortress, and on Mercury for some reason. The previous three don't really matter. Mercury is probably the only one that you'd be concerned about. But there's other planets. You have Earth, Venus, Mars, Sirius, all those missions before you unlock the index, which if you don't know, the index is basically like the best mid-game credit farm, and I'm going to be doing a video on that. But yeah, that's pretty much everywhere that they can be found, and they're represented by this little icon right here. You see this? So whenever you hover over missions, you see this icon. It's like kind of a lotus sigil, I guess you could call it. This is how you find them. They're all over the planets and everything except for the ones that I said they weren't on, obviously. Okay, now what's so special about them? Apart from them being literally basically everywhere, what's so special? Well, if we look at the mission preview for TCal on Earth, it's like the first dark sector mission that you'll have access to. You can see that it gives a bunch of bonuses, and these bonuses are, more affinity, better resource drop chance, stuff like that. But on the preview image or the panel or whatever, it doesn't actually show you that you actually get bonus credits as well as all the other bonuses. And that is the reason why it is like the best early game credit farm in the game. That's the sole reason why. It gives you so many credits for a beginner player. You're not going to be super loaded compared to other players, but when it comes to having credits in the early game, it's a pretty easy, fast, reliable way. So that's pretty much what the best mission is. Now, when you're doing dark sector missions, you want to do the first round, then extract, because if you stay longer than that, then your credit earnings decrease. So if you do the first round and say you get 25 or 20,000 credits, if you stay for another round, your credit earnings are going to go lower. It won't be like the same continuous amount per round. It'll actually decrease. It's not consistent. So you want to do the first round, then extract afterwards. So if you're doing a defense, do the first 3 waves, leave. Survival, do the first 5 minutes, then you want to leave. If you're doing an excavation, do the first excavator, then leave. And that is the most optimal way to farm credits if you're using dark sector missions. Hold up before we get into this next part, which is just going to be me explaining what my journey was, getting credits using the dark sector missions and my journey to getting 1 billion credits. How about you just like and subscribe? It helps me, helps you know when the videos are coming out, when better videos, more awesome videos are coming out. You can always unsubscribe later. It's just a suggestion, but let's get right into the next part of the video. Okay, now let's get into my actual 115 or so mission journey of getting 10 million credits, on the timeline of getting 1 billion credits in the game. I just used, the best beginner credit farm to get 10 million credits. I do not recommend it because I was literally dying. Like, not literally, but I was, it was not super fun. It was pretty much just AFKing, which, some people like that, but me personally, I'm not super, interested in just AFKing in the same mission over 100 times, which was pretty much like 11 hours just doing the same mission. So in this segment, I'm actually going to give you a few extra tips on what you can do to improve your credit earnings even more when it comes to doing dark sector missions. So this is the loadout that I'm using. I'm using Hydroid. You can get him pretty easily. He's on the first boss, the boss node on Earth. So he is the first Warframe that you can get if you want, if you're not, going after something else first. But yeah, first Warframe, and he's pretty strong. The reason we're using him is because he has this augment that increases credit drops for enemies that are, interacted with by his 4th ability, which is basically like a bunch of tentacles spawned by this little monster thingy right here. Then I also had a credit blessing as well as a credit booster. And if you don't know what this is, you can get a blessing from just going to a relay, going in chat. You can ask for it, hope somebody gives you one. But I do not recommend it because it can take a super long time. You know, you can do it if you want, but you don't have to. Now, a credit booster doubles your credit drops, but it costs 40 platinum in the market. You know, you can go here, go to equipment, boosters, and there you go. You see it right there, credit booster. And then, you know, it's not super necessary, but you can get it, and it's actually interchangeable with the Hydroid augment. You know, you can get the booster or the Hydroid augment because they don't apply in the mission at the same time. I don't know why they don't do that, but it's either or with those. You don't need both of them. You can choose and pick and choose. And, you know, you can just get the Hydroid augment, which would cost 15 plat or 10 or 15 plat, depending on who's trading it to you, because you do need to trade it. You know, if you're that early game, then you're going to need to trade it from someone. Don't get scammed. It's 10 to 15 plat, no more than that. That's pretty much it. The rest of my loadout is basic weapons that a new player would have. And yeah, let's get right into the 120 runs. So I'd say for the first 40 or so runs, I think it's 43 runs, yeah. I pretty much just sat there with Hydroid's augment and kept using his fourth ability, and I would just sit there. It was just kind of chill because you could just AFK. You didn't really need to do anything else. You could just put his fourth ability down, wait, once it went away, apply it again, and then keep doing that until the mission gave you the option to extract. Then you extract after that, like I said. But after that, after the 43 rounds, I actually decided to test and see if, the multipliers were actually working, because before I went into this, I didn't know if the multipliers all stacked on top of each other. Like, I knew that a credit booster as well as a blessing stacked with each other, but I didn't know if the Hydroid's augment added on to that. So yeah, I tested it without using Hydroid's ability or anything, and I just used my melee weapon, killed everything. I did it a few times just to test, and I found out that credit boosters and Hydroid's augment don't stack simultaneously, so you don't need both of them. You could just choose either or, and Hydroid's augment might just be easier to get, honestly, because it costs way less plat and it's kind of easier to acquire. So yes, the results were pretty much the same as if you had either or. Now, I did actually have a thought. I know this is kind of random. It's kind of unrelated to Warframe. Well, it kind of is. It is related to Warframe. What am I talking about? Basically, when you look at Hydroid's little tentacle monster thing, it really does look like this skeleton skull from Subnautica. It's in one of the caves or something in Subnautica. I don't know exactly where it is. But when I looked at this thing, I thought exactly of the skeleton skull. You can't tell me that it doesn't have at least some resemblance to it. Like, come on, dude. But yeah, nothing super amazing happened. But I do want to say that I found, a little bit of a brain break between the enemies, because I kind of just jumped on these containers around wave 60 or round 60 that I did. And yeah, their brain completely breaks. They don't know what to do. They can't attack unless there's a range attack. They just stare at you. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know. Maybe people would take advantage of that somehow. I don't exactly know how you would do that unless you're just AFKing or something and you have an Excalibur, a Wukong or something. I have no idea. I'm just throwing stuff out. But yeah, nothing super crazy happened. It was pretty chill up until wave 83, because that was like the last, I was just sitting on TikTok while I kind of half AFK doing this. Then after that, I actually found out about the It series that came out recently. It Welcome to Derry. And I watched that from wave 84 all the way into wave 97, I think. Yeah, I was just watching. I was half AFK just watching that the entire time. It's a pretty dope show. Love horror movies, so that's awesome. I watched the entire thing through this, not just through those missions, because I was kind of I was still doing other stuff throughout the day, but I was watching Welcome to Derry during these missions. So yeah, and then nothing super amazing happened after that. After that, the remaining runs, which was run 98 through run 119. I did 119 runs of this. You know how painful that is? I literally tortured myself. I'm gonna cry. Oh my god. I'm not actually gonna cry, but the point is, it was not fun, honestly. Well, it was kind of fun because I was watching, TikTok and shit, and I was also watching the It movie. But yeah, it was pretty chill. Nothing super amazing happened. I came out with 10 million credits. Then, right around me recording this, like me finishing recording, the Barakateer, he arrived. So I lost a crap ton of credits. But that does not matter because in the next video, I'm going to, talk about a better credit farm. And we're going to get all those credits back. But it was well worth it. It was well worth it. Borrow, he didn't bring that much of good stuff, but I just wanted to get some stuff from him. So yeah, we'll just get those credits back. Stuff happens through the journey of getting 1 billion credits. I'm not going to freaking save all my credits until I get to exactly 1 billion because that's going to take way too long. And I'm not going to be able to do that. I need to get plat for other things, other videos and stuff like that. So I need to trade. So credits are inevitably going to be spent on something. So yeah, that's all you need to know when it comes to best beginner credit farms. And if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.